Hello everyone and welcome back to Bhanzu classes. So I hope all of you are doing wonderful, right? So before we move ahead, I hope all of you have gone through the amazing chapter integers which we had talked about in our previous sessions, right? So today we are going to start with our very interesting new chapter, that is fractions and decimals. Yes, I hope all of you are able to recall what you have learned in the previous grade about these two particular topics, right? But we are not going to talk about both the topics in today's session. We are only going to focus on fractions today. So our session for the day is Introduction to Fractions, and what all we are going to cover in the session, let's have a look at it. So we are first of all going to start with fractions, then we'll be talking about the different types of fractions and also addition and subtraction of fractions. So we will be covering these particular topics in the session today. So starting with, what is a fraction? What's a fraction? Can you try to recall? Yes, fractions is a number representing a part of a whole, right? Where all parts must be equal, and the most important thing, whole can be a single object or a group of objects out there, right? So let's take it in the pictorial form now. So I have a shape for you over here as a rectangle. Everybody can recognize it, right? So this rectangle is further divided into 4 different rectangles, right? So how many parts this big rectangle is divided into? 4 parts. But which of them is shaded as dark color? Only one. So what is the fraction representing this dark shaded portion in a whole object? It's just 1 out of how many parts? Total 4 parts. So over here 1 is our numerator and 4, that is the total number of parts, is denominator. Got it? And now can you try to recall what is the simplest form? Yes, 1 by 4 in itself is the simplest form over here. Why? Because the numerator and denominator does not have anything in common, right? If they have a common factor, then we would call it as a fraction which can be further simplified into simplest form. But if they do not have a common factor, then it's already the simplest form of that particular fraction. So over here 1 by 4 in itself is a simplest form of itself, right? So let's move ahead and do 2 interesting questions out here. So write the fraction representing the shaded portion. The first one is a circle which has been divided into 8 equal parts, right? Out of that, how many are shaded? 3. So the fraction representing the shaded portion in our first figure is 3 upon 8, right? And what about the next one? Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We have 5 shaded portions upon the total number of squares, that is 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is how we write the fraction representing the shaded portion. Got it? Everybody is clear till here that what is a fraction and how do we represent them? What is numerator? What is denominator? So now moving ahead on types of fractions. So we have many different types of fractions, starting with the first one, that is a proper fraction. What is a proper fraction? Where the numerator is lesser than the denominator. So we can have so many examples for it, like 2 upon 5, 3 upon 7, 4 upon 9, where the numerator is less than the denominator. That is called a proper fraction. What about the improper fractions? Where the numerator is greater than the denominator. So it's the inverse of proper fractions, right? So the example can be 5 upon 2, 7 upon 3, 9 upon 4, and so on. You can write your favorite examples as well. And then we have one more type of fraction over here, that is mixed fraction, which is a combination of a whole number and a part, right? So a whole number and a part. So improper fractions can be converted to mixed fractions, and mixed fractions can also be converted to improper fractions. Remember? By dividing, by seeing. So how do we write a mixed fraction? It's actually the quotient remainder upon denominator or divisor. Got it? This is how we represent a mixed fraction when we convert it from improper fractions. Right? So let's move ahead and talk about more types now. Like we have equivalent fractions. What is the word equivalent means? Where we have something equal. So what is it? Fractions that represent the same part of a whole. Like 2 upon 3 if multiplied by 2 upon 2 is going to give us 4 by 6, right? So this is the same part of a whole because we are multiplying our numerator and denominator by the same whole number. Over here, division by the same whole number. It can be multiplication, division, but it should always be a same number, same integer, right? So these are equivalent fractions and you can find more equivalent fractions for them. Moving ahead to our next type, that is like fractions. So like means something same. So in like fractions, what is same? The denominator is same. So if you have many fractions out there and if few of them have the same denominator, so you can classify them as like fractions. So opposite of it is unlike fractions. So what are unlike fractions? Where the denominators are not the same, they have different denominators. Such fractions are called unlike fractions. Clear everybody till here? So we have discussed till now the types of fractions as proper fractions, improper fractions, mixed fractions, equivalent fractions, like and unlike fractions. Got it? So many types are there, right? Moving ahead, let's solve few questions. So just now I told you that mixed fractions and improper fractions can be converted by each other, right? So this is an improper fraction. Now let's write it as mixed fraction, what is asked in the question. So we are going to divide it. So 15 divided by 4 will give me the 3 as quotient and also 3 as the remainder. So how do we write it? I told you quotient remainder by divisor, right? So this will be equal to the quotient which is 3, the remainder which is 3 upon the divisor which is 4. Similarly, if you divide 36 by 7, you will get 5 as the quotient, 1 as the remainder and 7 as the divisor, right? Let's check it out. So 36 divided by 7, 5s are 35, right? So this is how we get the mixed fractions from improper fractions. Got it? Moving ahead to our next concept, that is comparing fractions, right? How do we compare the fractions? Starting with like fractions. What are like fractions? Which have the same denominator. So if denominator is same, there is nothing to compare in denominators. That means we should compare the numerators. So greater the numerator, greater is the value of the fraction. Lesser the numerator, lesser is the value of the fraction, right? What about in unlike fractions with the same numerator? So if numerators are already same, the fraction with the lower denominator is greater in value. And the one which is having a higher denominator is lesser in value, right? So whenever you have unlike fractions with the same numerator, we just need to compare the denominators. Now what if the numerator and denominator both are not same? Both are not the same. So that means convert them to like fractions and then compare. How do we convert them to like fractions? You can also take out the LCM over there or by the concept of equivalent fractions, right? So 9 by 12 is greater than 8 by 12. This is how we have converted them to like fraction. Denominator became same. Now compare the numerator, right? Moving ahead, we have addition or subtraction of fractions now. So first of all, this is a concept of example of like fractions. The denominator is same, ma'am. So what should we do now? How do we add them? We add them by adding their numerators. Denominator is same, we take it common and we just need to add the numerators. Same goes for subtraction. Taking the denominator same, just subtract the numerators. So you get 3 upon 7, right? Let's see now if we have unlike fractions. Now what did we learn just now? If they are unlike fractions, you should convert them to like fractions first. How? By taking out their LCM. So we get 12 as the LCM, right? So it's 9 upon 12 and 8 upon 12. Now how do we add them? We will add them by taking the denominator common and addition of numerators. Same way for subtraction. Denominator is common and 9 minus 8 is 1. Right? So let's move ahead and think about a very interesting questions. Till now we talked about like fractions, unlike fractions, which are either in the form of proper fraction or improper fraction. What about if I give you mixed fractions? To add or subtract, what will you do? There are two different ways to do it. Okay. The first one is do the operation separately. That is, if it's an addition question, do the addition separately of whole numbers and then for the proper fraction. If it's subtraction, do the subtraction separately for whole parts and proper fraction. Or the other way around, which I prefer, is write the mixed fractions as improper fractions and then directly add or subtract them. Right? Once you get improper fraction, we have already learned just now how to add or subtract them. If the denominators are same, just do the operation in the numerators. If the denominators are not the same, convert them to like fractions and then do the operation according to the question. Okay? So moving ahead, let's solve two interesting questions out there. So first of all, what type of fractions are these? Ma'am, they are like fractions because the denominators are same. So taking the denominator common, subtract the numerator. So you will get 5 upon 15. Now you can see over here, there can be one more concept. They have a common factor. So cancel it out. You can have 1 by 3 as the final answer. So always try to simplify your final answer, right? Let's see one more. Over here the denominators are not the same. That means they are unlike fractions. So what to do now? Make the denominators same, right? Make the denominators same. So what will you do? We will take the LCM as 6. So first one you will get 3, then 2, then 1. So you will get 6 upon 6, right? Which is actually nothing, it's equals to 1. How did we do? We have taken the LCM over here, right? So this is how we solve our questions for this particular topic. Now let's summarize what all we had covered in the session today. We had talked about what is a fraction, what are the different types of fractions, and how do we add or subtract fractions. There can be different types of fractions for doing the operation, addition and subtraction, and we had talked about them in detail, whether they are like fractions, unlike fractions or mixed fractions. So I hope all of you have got it. So do not forget to practice the questions out there. Until we meet next, keep exploring and spark your curiosity. Bye-bye.